Hey, Happy New Year. This is the Route 56 recap where we're just kind of giving you a sense of what our lesson was about on the weekend so you can follow it up during the week with some questions and discussion with your kids. The big thing about this weekend that you should know is that we gave the kids the opportunity to accept Christ as their Savior and Lord. We didn't get any responses from that from people doing it for the first time. But that could be because they're either all Christian or because some of them weren't quite ready or had some questions and wanted to take some time to think about that. So it's a great week for you to follow up with them and talk to them about where they stand, like with Christ, and if they've accepted Him as their Lord or not. So just kind of with the sermon and stuff explanation I'm giving you, keep that in the back of your mind as the main thing that we'd like you to kind of follow up with. So we were talking about Jesus resurrecting other people, specifically a synagogue ruler's daughter and a widow's son. And the central points that we were looking at were first His power over life and death, and that those walls to us that are, death is final and that's the end, to Jesus are movable. And so just to think about, wow, that this was a guy who could do that, that's really an interesting apologetic for Jesus being God. A second thing to think about is Jesus's compassion on the people that He met. And it's interesting that He wasn't concerned for the people who had died as much as for the people who were left. We see this especially in the widow's story, where He sees her and He has compassion, and just recognizing that without her husband, and he was her last son, she would have been left destitute. So we're just thinking of, he cared and He was compassionate for her situation enough to bring her son back to her. The final thing that we're thinking about, and this also goes back to the widow's son story, is Jesus being recognized as God by the people at that time. He did that healing in front of a group of people, a large crowd, and just from their perspective, they hadn't heard from God, seen God, had a prophet from God for 400 years. That's how long it had been since they had really anything. And for, the Israelite people who had been so close to God their entire history, it's a big deal. I had the kids think back, that's 1610. That's how far ago that would have been for us. It's a very long time to not hear from your God. And so when they saw Jesus do this, they recognized it not just as a miracle for these particular people and for this family, but as something that signaled the return of God to them as an entire people. God is here to help us, is what they said. So that's interesting. Kind of just besides asking them about where they stand with Christ as their Lord, another angle, another question maybe that you could ask them is thinking about their soul. Have they thought about the fact that there's a who to who they are, and a person that's who they are besides their body? This is just such a fruitful, you could go so many directions with this type of a question, but, just to ask them, have you thought about the fact that who you are isn't your body, it's not your physical self at all, that there's you that is going to outlive your body, and what are you going to do about that, and that whatever happens to your body, it's not the person that's being affected as much as, just this physical thing that carries our souls around. It's really interesting. So I'm very interested in this topic. But it's something that's fun to have them think about, and they might not have thought about it in those terms before. You can always ask them, can you locate your soul? And is it in your finger? No. It's not in your brain either. You can, I'm not going to go off. Anyways, see you next week. I love this topic, but check in with them, find out how they are doing and where they stand with Christ.